Dear God, or whatever. Or maybe. Dear maybe. It's me, Taryn. I don't really want to face what's coming. I am bone tired. I am sore afraid. I am weary. I feel too old for another fight. Or else, I'm too young. I'm not ready. I'm no firefighter. It's not in my training. I cannot fight the fire. I am too powerless to stop the bombs that continue inexplicably to rain down on Gaza, to kill and terrorize as many as possible before the ceasefire takes effect. It's not in my capacity to stop another pandemic or even treat the illness. I'm not a political strategist, and the politicians don't listen to me. I'm not Elphaba, the witch from Wicked. Defy gravity? Think about the physics. You laugh, but that was the moment when finally I cried. After election season, after pushing through, it was defying gravity. Like, how? It's impossible. Oh, God, I am so tired. Some days I do wish to be like Rip Van Winkle, to lay my weary body down and awaken on the inauguration day of a United States president who loves people more than money and leads with empathy and compassion. So that I might live with ease and trust in the morality of institutions. So that I might rest, knowing that our leaders will take care of the least of these and always do the right thing. So that I don't have to worry quite so much or do quite as much. So that I might be a more passive actor in my society and assume that someone else will do the work so that I won't have to. But I am having trouble staying awake to this moment. Well, you would not believe it, friends, but the most miraculous thing happened. Maybe, or God wrote back to me. Dear Taryn, it's me, God, or whoever. It is difficult to hear my voice when so many other voices are so loudly cruel, like cartoon villains sometimes, and they're always being rebroadcast on NPR and CNN and all the other places you go to try and listen for wisdom and knowledge. But my voice is still out there. You can hear it. You hear it when you listen to Reverend Dr. King speak. When his words remind you, I make all things new. So you know this is not an old moment on repeat. This is a new moment. This administration might feel the same, but you are different now. You have survived some things. You have learned some things about survival, about thriving even. When you hear Dr. King's voice say that no person is an island, that reminds you it is not possible to solve any major conflict alone, but together. With a shared vision, a shared dream, more is possible than you could ever imagine. Now, the voices speaking on high these next few years will be harbingers of cruelty. They will be justifiers of extreme greed. They will be amplifiers of lies and violence against the weak and the poor. These voices will foment discord and bigotry and fear. Therefore, flood your life with prophecy. Flood your days with prophecy. Remember how many prophets have walked the earth during times much harder and more bleak than these. And Taryn, take time every week to listen to one of Dr. King's old recorded speeches. Maybe take time every day to listen to one of Gandhi's messages. Take time to listen to a speech by Fannie Lou Hamer, who reminds us when we fight with our fellow Americans, we are fighting to save them from their own hate. That's what she said. Set aside time to read the words of Congressman John Lewis, who tells us to find a way to get in the way, to make good trouble, necessary trouble. And Taryn, listen to those seminary lectures you recorded on your phone by Reverend Dr. James Cone, who taught you systematic theology and who always reminded you to find your own voice. And reread the words of your old friend and kindred, Alandria E. Williams. And remember how she said we are all worthy. Not because of what we produce, but because of who we are. Because the voices of unchecked greed will speak loud and proud during this era, you must flood your life with the voices of prophecy as a spiritual practice, as a life practice. And if you do sleep, and when you sleep, sleep to rest and to dream. Hold fast to dreams, like the poet Langston Hughes told you. Hold fast to dreams of the future. Hold fast to dreams of reproductive freedom and corporate accountability across all states and all communities in our nation. Hold fast to dreams of rigorous public educational institutions piled high with books about human rights and gender equality and trans equality, deepening empathy and understanding about the whole human experience. Hold fast to that dream. Hold fast to dreams of robust child welfare programs and public support for early education and subsidized family leave. Hold fast to dreams of top-notch health care and communal inclusion of our elders across America. Hold fast to dreams of gun buyback programs, of common sense gun laws, completely safe schools, completely safe nightclubs, safe churches and concerts, and freedom to assemble with just the assumption of safety everywhere. Hold fast to your dreams and share them again and again until they become everyone's common dream and they can see themselves in the dream. When you're not dreaming, remain awakened to the revolutionaries, the prophets, the organizers who right now are making a way out of a shifting landscape and a narrowing path. Right now. And when you are not dreaming, remember your history. Taryn, remember your parents who fought for the end of the Vietnam War and awoke to a morning when it had ended. Because they showed up to that fight day after day and were not subdued. And remember that night, Taryn, at the 6th grade class sleepover, when all the kids stayed up the entire night so that you would be sure to be awake to watch Nelson Mandela walk out of prison after 27 years, to see him free. So that you remember that as horrific as the reality of apartheid is, you also know that apartheid ends. And remember your grandparents who hid from the United States government and refused to sign loyalty oaths for the bar exam, who met in secret with comrades to discuss a more communal society where wages and labor would be shared amongst neighbors, and the gap between the rich and poor would be closed under threat of prison. Your grandparents still published the Yiddish newspaper Die Morgen Freiheit, the Morning Freedom. And they still plan to make a true beloved community in places like Pittsburgh and Cleveland. And remember your ancestors who hid in attics and practiced Shabbat in the concentration camps and plotted to send some of your luckiest ancestors on a boat to America, where they lost everything except for their lives and their hope for a future. And remember that people across time have survived oppressive regimes and oligarchies and autocracies and whatever may come. Not all people survived, no, but enough to tell stories of survival today. And remember the Third Unitarian Church of Chicago that taught you how to gather signatures, to change repressive policies, how to organize a march for freedom in the neighborhood, and how to start a community garden. And finally, Taryn, remain awake to all the tiny revolutions that are happening right now. The fact that this summer, UUCA will launch its first Peace and Justice summer camp for the kids in Atlanta who are ready to learn about stewardship of the earth, who are ready to learn about organizing and how to stand up for justice. And Taryn, remember the underground networks that are getting people to their abortion procedures across state lines every single day. And the networks of helpers who are supporting immigrants' rights and creating safe pathways for immigrants to travel and resist ICE and to try and stay here, or at least stay safe. And remember the lobbyists and politicians who are staying in the fight for a more just, more educated, more progressive nation. And remember the peace activists who never, under any circumstances, give up hope for world peace. And remember the UU congregations offering safe passage to transgender folks who need to travel now to get life-saving gender-affirming procedures and medications. See, we are the prophets of the future we believe in. We must remain awake to all the tiny revolutions taking place all around us, even now. We must stay awake to them, learn about them, uplift them, amplify, and join them, and keep telling those stories. We must push through narratives of cruelty, greed, and degradation, and listen for those other living narratives among us. The prophets are among us right now. They are us. See, we are not who we were in 2016. We have been made new. And so we return to one another for renewal, you and I. So listen for the voice of the divine, because the divine is still speaking. But you must listen. How do you defy gravity? Together. You'll do it together. So remain awake, Taryn, and keep listening for my voice. I am still speaking. I want to close with the words from by my friend Alandria Williams. We are worthy, she wrote. We are worthy not because of what we produce, but because of who we are. We are divine bodies of light and darkness. You are not worthy because of what you offer, not because of what is in your mind, not for the support you give others, not for what you give at all. We are worthy and we are whole just because we are. In this great turning, in this radical readjustment and alignment, we are not disposable. We are needed. We are the very people that have withstood everything that has been thrown at us as a people. And as Maya Angelou would say, still I rise. We arise from the pain. We arise from the grief. We arise from the limits people place on us and the limits we place on ourselves. We rise to be the children and the ancestors. We rise to be our true selves in relationship to our families and communities, recognizing our liberating and whole selves, honoring them and others as we strive for abundant communities, abundant lives, abundant relationships, abundant values and cultural manifestations. We are worthiness personified, you and I, and we are worthy. We deserve a life where we are not always fighting for our existence. We deserve a life where we are not always fighting for our existence. Imagine what we could create if we were not always in the struggle. To everyone that has the courage, the power, the ability to co-create what we want and need while rooting in what we can't lose and in who we are. You are the visionary. You are the hope. You are our ancestors' dreams. It's how you move in the world. It's how you move in the world so people can see by example. Thanks to all that we are, to our embodiment. The embodiment, not of productivity, but the embodiment of radical love, care, and sanctuary. It's embodiment time, Alandria said. That's why we move with our movement choir. It's embodiment time. Embodied living is living one's values out loud. Let me every day live my values out loud. Let us every day live our values out loud. Are you with me? Yes. So remain awake. Keep listening to the prophets. They are with us always, calling us to embody the connected, the compassionate life, the life we all work for and believe in, the shared dream. May it be so. Amen.